अब हमें पता है कि यूक्रेन का लड़ाई 1 साल हो चुका है और सबसे पहले सीख द फर्स्ट लेसन वी हैव लर्न फ्रॉम द यूक्रेन वॉर इज दैट फ्यूचर वॉर्स आर गोइंग टू बी लॉन्ग। गॉन आर द डेज जब हम सोच सकते थे कि लड़ाई जो है ना शॉर्ट लड़ाई होगा और इट विल नॉट बी सो वायलेंट, इतने कैजुअलिटीज नहीं होंगे। ये लड़ाई और दूसरा विश्व युद्ध की लड़ाई में कोई अंतर नहीं है, उतना ही हानिकारक है सबके लिए, right? It's so violent and it is so bloody and it is so destructive. So violent and future wars will not only be violent, they'll be long also. Okay. And or there is going to be a nuclear overhang on all these wars. जैसे आप अभी वेरी क्लियरली ये जो रशिया के वॉर में पता चल रहा है कि ये जो परमाणु हथियार और परमाणु शक्ति इस्तेमाल करने का डर सबको दिखाई दे रहा है। क्या will the world go nuclear? Will a nuclear war break out? These are the things which are coming out. The next feature of the Ukraine war is that nations as a whole are getting involved with war, whether it is Russia or Ukraine or the EU or NATO or the USA. It is a whole of nation approach. So if it is a whole of nation approach, then there is something called civil military fusion which is needed for the long haul. ये लंबे अरसे के लिए सिविल मिलिट्री फ्यूजन यानी सिविल और मिलिट्री का मिश्रण या मेल मिलाप, ज्यादा मेल मिलाप की जरूरत है। ये जो सिविल मिलिट्री फ्यूजन है, ये ऐसे कोई बात नहीं है कि ये नया है, पर ये शब्द सिविल मिलिट्री फ्यूजन इस्तेमाल किया गया था पिछले 4-5 साल में। पिछले 4-5 साल से चाइना ने शुरू किया था। चाइना स्टार्टेड यूजिंग दिस टर्मिनोलॉजी ऑफ सिविल मिलिट्री फ्यूजन। अगर हम देखेंगे तो सिविल मिलिट्री फ्यूजन वाज देयर। द मिलिट्री इंडस्ट्रियल कॉम्प्लेक्स ऑफ द यूएसए इज ऑल अबाउट सिविल मिलिट्री फ्यूजन. Russia had a huge industrial complex which was always repurposed to military, right? That was also civil military fusion, and I'll talk about it a little later, right? But in this century, in the beginning of this century, China started this terminology of civil military fusion, right? And it has caught fire. People think civil military fusion is something very, very great and very unique. It's not, right? Every country today which has to fight a long war or even any kind of war has to have a whole of nation approach, and that is all about civil military fusion. Okay, you will find a lot of literature about civil military fusion. हमने भी लिखा है. If you go to gunnershot.com, right, my website, एंड अगर आप उसमें डाल दोगे सिविल मिलिट्री फ्यूजन, आपको 5-6 वीडियो मिलेंगे, 5-6 आर्टिकल्स मिलेंगे जो मैंने लिखा है. बट इतने लिखने के बाद 3-4 साल मैंने ओआरएफ के साथ, राइट, ओआरएफ के साथ भी मैंने एक प्रोग्राम किया था, राइट. जय हिंद वेंकी, आई सी यू एंड आई ऑल्सो सी धार्मिक वॉरियर. हेलो टू ऑल ऑफ यू, राइट. I'd like to talk to you like this. Okay, I'm going to be very personal with each of you because I like to connect with all of you. Okay, so as I was saying, I was talking to you about civil military fusion, which I did with ORF. Right. I had my own views. This was about 8-9 months back. It was very a raw view, but after that, I have gone into greater details and I've reflected upon it. And what I'm going to now present to you is something a little different and new. And Jay and Yash, how are you? And I hope all of you और आपके फैमिली सब कुशल मंगल हैं और आज संडे के दिन आप रिलैक्स मूड में हो और इसके बाद जो भी आप चाहते हैं हम बात करेंगे, राइट. सो व्हाट इज दिस सिविल मिलिट्री फ्यूजन ऑल अबाउट? मेरे हिसाब से सिविल मिलिट्री फ्यूजन का 4 पहलू हैं, 4 facets as it written. One is politico-military fusion. I'm introducing a new term which is not there anywhere, and I've written about it. The information, strategic communication, and new technology fusion, industrial civil military fusion, and economic and financial fusion. व्हेन यू टॉक ऑफ होल ऑफ द नेशन अप्रोच, ये चार फ्यूजन की जरूरत है, ये चार चीजों का मेल और मिश्रण की जरूरत है, सिविल और मिलिट्री ओर से। चलो हम पॉलिटिको मिलिट्री फ्यूजन के बारे में बात करेंगे। पॉलिटिको मिलिट्री फ्यूजन है ये जो हमारा जो राजनीति है, और यानी कि पॉलिटिकल लीडरशिप और मिलिट्री लीडरशिप का मिश्रण को बोलते हैं हम पॉलिटिको मिलिट्री फ्यूजन। वो किस लिए है? क्लॉजविट्स जो माना हुआ विशेषज्ञ है लड़ाई के बारे में, ही रोट इन दिस ट्रीटिस कॉल्ड ऑन वॉर दैट पॉलिटिक्स war is the extension of politics by other means or violent means. Conversely, politics is the extension of war by other means. They are interrelated. किसी देश में the political leadership is mandated by the people of that country to safeguard and provide security to that country. The armed forces and its leadership is mandated by the constitution of that country to safeguard the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the country. So both these people have to have a fusion between the two of them. अगर इनका मेल मिलाप बिल्कुल अव्वल दर्जे का नहीं है, तो उस देश का सॉवरेनिटी और इंटीग्रिटी कायम नहीं रहेगा। और इसके क्या पहलू हैं? दो, यानी कि हमारा प्रधानमंत्री और चीफ ऑफ आर्मी स्टाफ या सीडीएस जो भी है इनका, और हमारा रक्षा मंत्री, इन सब का मेल मिलाप होना चाहिए, राइट? इसके स्ट्रक्चर्स होना चाहिए, है हमारे पास, पर वो अलग, और नेशनल सिक्योरिटी एडवाइजर स्ट्रक्चर होना चाहिए, पॉलिटिकल मिलिट्री फ्यूजन। इसमें दो इनका मेन चीजें हैं, मुद्दे हैं। एक, प्रिपेयरिंग नेशन फॉर वॉर, हमारा देश को तैयारी करना है लड़ाई के लिए, वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। इसमें क्या क्या आता है? जॉइंटनेस, थिएटराइजेशन, न्यू टेक्नोलॉजी, इक्विपमेंट, एमुनिशन, ये सब तैयारी करके, और ट्रेनिंग, राइट? स्ट्रक्चरिंग फॉर सोल्जरिंग, जैसे अभी हमने इन्होंने रिस्ट्रक्चर किया था अग्निपथ और अग्निवीर प्रोग्राम के साथ, वो अलग बात है क्या किया है, बट दिस इज द रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ द politico military leadership of the country. That is, they have to prepare the nation for war. The second, अगर लड़ाई छिड़ गया किसी वजह से, so they have to lay down the aim, terminal objectives and exit strategies in a conflict. क्या उद्देश्य है, किस उद्देश्य से वो देश को लड़ाई के लिए ले जा रहे हैं, और उस लड़ाई में क्या हासिल करना चाहते हैं, और उनको अगर वो उनका जो उद्देश्य हासिल हो गया तो उस लड़ाई से बाहर कैसे निकलेंगे, एग्जिट स्ट्रेटजी, दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंट। अगर पॉलिटिको मिलिट्री लीडरशिप नहीं है, ये दोनों चीज नहीं होगा, राइट? इन दोनों में विजय नहीं होगा, राइट? पराजय का चांसेस है। Defeat is on the cards if this fusion is not there. Right? Let's see it a little more in detail. यूक्रेन में क्या हुआ था, राइट? हम एक एक लेंगे। रशिया, when it went into Kiev from the north, राइट? क्या उनका उद्देश्य था? कि कीव को कैप्चर करें, जेलेंस्की को हटाएं और रिजीम चेंज कायम करें, और उसकी वजह से पूरा यूक्रेन उनका कब्जे में आ जाएगा। वो तो हुआ नहीं। क्यों नहीं हुआ? क्योंकि उनका ट्रेनिंग नहीं था। तो जो पॉलिटिको मिलिट्री फ्यूजन में जहां ट्रेनिंग होना चाहिए फॉर डीप मैनूवर और regime change by the military was not there. We saw that the entire Russian machinery was floundering, right? They couldn't proceed ahead. And I don't know whether there was complete fusion in the preparation also. So the preparation was lacking. They had raw recruits who were not trained for such operations. Their logistics were not based on the reality of ground, right? Their aim could not be and their exit strategy from Kiev was absolutely awful. We saw that. अभी क्या है? अभी लड़ाई चल रहा है पिछले एक साल से. वो जो लाइन along the Donbass and Luhansk has not changed. छोटा मोटा चेंज हुआ है. इनका क्या उद्देश्य है? फाइनल. What is Russia's? We'll go back to the previous slide. What is Russia's aim, terminal objectives, and exit strategies in this entire conflict? क्या हमें पता है? क्या इन्होंने पूरा इंटरनेशनल फोरम में बताया है? क्या उनके फौज को पता है? जो मोटे मोटे बाखमुट ले लिया, ये ले लिया, वो ले लिया, कुपियांस्क ले लिया, ऐसे छोटे मोटे लड़ाई चल रहे हैं, बट उनका क्या फाइनल टर्मिनल ऑब्जेक्टिव है हमें पता नहीं. अगर हमें टर्मिनल ऑब्जेक्टिव पता नहीं है तो ये लड़ाई कैसे खत्म होगा? उनका पॉलिटिकल ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है इसमें? पुतिन का क्या पॉलिटिकल ऑब्जेक्टिव है आज तक हमें नहीं पता. पहले उन्होंने बताया था कि NATO should not be deployed here, right? He also liberated, he घोषित कर दिया कि डोनेट्स्क और लुहांस्क दोनों लिबरेटेड एरियाज हैं, ये सब, right? But with where we are, is it feasible? It is not feasible. Are we clear about it? We are not clear about it. So there is a problem, the politico-military fusion problem in Russia. Let's look at Ukraine. When you analyze Ukraine, from the beginning, if one thing you have noticed, Ukraine was fully prepared for this operation with whatever they had. They knew exactly how Russia is going to come in. The politicians, Zelensky and company, have been very clear as to how to handle the situation in the international forum. The military is very clear how to handle the Russian forces on the battlefield. उनको पता है रशिया को कैसे हराना है या उनको कैसे रोकना है. इन दोनों में तालमेल है सिविल मिलिट्री फ्यूजन. उनका जो उद्देश्य है बड़ा क्लियर है, राइट? और क्योंकि अगर हम देखेंगे ये जो यूक्रेन वॉर है ये सिर्फ एक साल का नहीं है, ये तकरीबन 2014 से शुरू हुआ है. इनफैक्ट उससे पहले भी शुरू हुआ है, राइट? जब से क्रीमिया टेक ओवर किया और वो जो कलर रेवोल्यूशन हुआ था जिसमें यानुकोविच को हटा दिया गया और ये ज़ेलेंस्की की पार्टी को लाया गया था. सो इट्स नॉट अ न्यू थिंग. They are prepared. Whereas Russia has come underprepared. So there is a problem. Okay. What about the EU, USA, NATO? उनका भी बड़ा क्लियर है पॉलिटिको मिलिट्री फ्यूजन क्या कर रहे हैं वो, राइट? they are all clear that they will not get involved in any war, but they will support Ukraine and bleed Russia in a hybrid war. That is very clear. And ये बात उनका डिफेंस सेक्रेटरी मिस्टर ऑस्टिन ने पिछले साल ही बता दिया था जब वो कीव में गए थे along with their foreign secretary मिस्टर ब्लिंकन. We can argue whether Ukraine has done the right thing by adopting what it is. You can argue that Ukraine is fighting on behalf of USA. That's a different story. But the issue of politico-military fusion has to be paramount. Similarly, हमारे जब टाइम आएगा या हमारा मौका आएगा, we should be very clear कि हम क्या सही प्रिपेयर कर रहे हैं अपने फौज को लड़ाई के लिए या फॉर एनी इवेंचुअलिटी. सेकेंड, अगर हम लड़ाई में जाएंगे तो हमारा क्या उद्देश्य है, क्या हासिल करना है और किस तरीके से हासिल करना है, हमारा क्या प्लान है, उसका मिश्रण होना चाहिए, राइट? सेकेंड थिंग, इस लड़ाई का खास बात यह है कि इंफॉर्मेशन, strategic communication and new technology fusion is of a very high order. This is the new phase of fusion, civil military fusion which you are seeing. And what does this new technology consist of? The new technologies consist of space, it consists of artificial intelligence, it consists of unmanned systems, it consists of EW, cyber technology, right? Semiconductors and so on. अगर हम देखेंगे इसमें information, battlefield transparency, intelligence, cyber and drone ops, all these, including narrative building, has been carried out by civilians on all sides, whether it is by Ukrainians or Russians. For what? For military purposes. Their complete capabilities in this has been repurposed for militaries. So, a high degree of fusion of these is on the cards. You look at it from what USA support has, uh, how USA has supported Ukraine. It has supported Ukraine through Microsoft AI, space, that is SpaceX, right? Starlinks, okay, Amazon through clouds, and all these being repurposed for military purposes. Agar, if you see my opening video about military technologies of this century, it is all about civil military fusion or uh, fusion in this field, where you have to repurpose civil dual purpose technologies for military purposes, and that is the crux of civil military fusion. Today's dual purpose technologies have 80% usage in normal day to day life, 20% they have usage in the armed forces. And that is the crux of this whole story. We have to understand that. And India has to transform from where we are into this. Are we transforming? I'll talk about it later. Okay. We'll talk about industrial fusion. USA and the Soviet capacities of the last century, they had so much capacities in making tanks, guns, ammunition, ships, and एयरक्राफ्ट. इनका इतना कैपेसिटीज थे उनमें कि उन्होंने दोनों मिलके मेजर जर्मनी और जापान को हरा दिया था. वो क्षमता, इंडस्ट्रियल क्षमता ने हरा दिया. आज के दिन अगर हम देखेंगे, Russia still retains this industrial capacity. Even USA has it in its military industrial complex, but that is not relevant to the Ukraine war. हम सुन रहे हैं, we are all listening, hearing that Ukraine is being supplied ammunition through Pakistan. The Western countries don't have enough 155 ammunition, 155 gun ammunition, right? So there is a problem with them. But that is not there with, Russia. Have you thought why? Now, if you see the entire Russia's military industrial complex, which they have, not had, which they have, and intact. I've been to Russia and I've seen some of it when I was in service. It is astounding. It is much more than what they require. But I think about 60 to 70% of their capacity is export oriented. They export it to the Middle East, they export it to the Southeast Asia. Myanmar, incidentally, has most of Myanmar army is all Russian equipment. Our own equipment, we are all, and they not only sell military equipment to them, they also maintain them and give them maintenance support. Now, what has happened if you see? This export capability has enabled Russia to surge its requirement for the Ukraine war. That is why you don't find Russia running out of ammunition. It will never run out of ammunition. Because I think, in my assessment, about 200, whatever it needs as normal, capacity building into its army, it has 2.5 times that capacity spare as part of its defense exports. The lesson for us is this: we should not, we are, आत्मनिर्भरता तो is अनिवार्य, इसमें कोई, no, there are two ways about आत्मनिर्भरता. We are far away from आत्मनिर्भरता, that's a different story. We have to reach there. And second, we have to focus on defense exports. Are we focusing on defense exports at this? No. Everyone tells me when I listen to anyone speaking, oh, we have gone up to our defense export by 13,000 crores or whatever. Okay, we have to go to 5 billion. To me, that number is irrelevant. We have to export capacity. That capacity will automatically get converted into finances, right? So that capacity, which is spare capacity, will help us in case of a long war. It will also earn us money. It will also get us technology. So our defense exports has to be well thought through, and for that our industry has to be fused in. And I'm sure we are not thinking of these lines. And this is what is required. If those of you, any one of you who's listening who knows people, please tell them this. Of course, I've written an article on this. Tomorrow or day after it will get published in the Financial Express. People will read about it. It's not as if people are not going to read about it. Okay. Then there's an issue of economic and financial fusion. Very important. If we are going in for a long war, अगर लड़ाई लंबा होगा, क्या हमारे पास आर्थिक क्षमता है लड़ाई को जारी रखने के लिए, करने के लिए? एक तरीके से, if you have exports, it will automatically fund your long-term defense preparation, right? But let us look at Russia. Was Russia prepared for this eventuality? In my opinion, Russia has been preparing for this eventuality for quite some time. It is not something new. They have been preparing for an eventuality where they'll have to go into Ukraine for quite some time, right? And their preparation is on both fronts. They have been able to sidestep all the sanctions. They have been able to also financially fund the war through their energy surpluses and their resource surpluses, right? So they have made very clear, there's a clear fusion between in the financial sector and their economic sector with their military sector. This is something which we have to really think of. And right, and here there are 2-3 things I would like to highlight. The first thing, unless you own the technology, it is not cheap. If you own the technology, it is cheap and it makes financial sense. Second, we shouldn't keep running after precision ammunition alone. While precision ammunition has a role, a large part of or precision weapon systems have a role on the battlefield. A large part of battle will be fought with non-precision dumb weapons. How to make that effective is the acme of war. And that should be meshed with your economic and financial fusion. It's complicated, I understand, but that's the way forward. Right? So here also I've written, you need Atmanirbharta. The next part of the story is the fact that, India is import dependent on China for many things. Or we have adverse trade balance. If we have to get into a conflict with China, will China impose trade restrictions? Will they curb exports to twist or tail? We all know that China weaponizes its trade. They've done it in BRI in all countries. Right? Do we have a plan to counter it? The happy news here is that we do. And that's what we did when we banned their apps and we, put restrictions on contracts and all that. But we have to go beyond that. We have to think beyond that for a long haul, right? Luckily for us, at this point of time, China needs to export. In case there's a problem on the LAC, they still need to export, otherwise they'll collapse. Whereas if we don't get those Chinese imports, we might not collapse. We might have tough times, but will not collapse. But tomorrow, different conditions, different situations, we need to think through this. In any case, it's good to reduce dependence on China. Okay. Now, in the Indian context, what are the outcomes of civil military fusion? The 1971 war, believe you me, was the best example of civil military fusion. Our Prime Minister and Field Marshal Manekshaw were on one page. I've heard from him, right? I've heard from him when he was still alive and I was still a young major. He used to go around when we were doing staff college and all, explain how it happened. And I recollect back, it's a prime example of civil military fusion. And if we go back to our own, what we have done, and apply it today, you will get very good results. I am very confident of that. Most of the time, हम अपने खुद के शक्ति को underestimate करते हैं. We tend to underestimate our own strength. Right. So another point of Indian context, 2019, our PM highlighted the need of a future-ready force at the Combined Commanders Conference. He said future-ready force. He wanted to shed legacy systems and practices. He spoke of a holistic approach focused on breaking down of civil military silos and expediting the need of decision making beyond weapon procurement. See what's the foresight he's displayed. And what did he speak of? Civil military fusion. The unfortunate part is he's very clear on this, but is there a follow-up by others down the chain? That's the point. Look at this. Or capex in the budget. You see, in the Indian context, the budget is almost a policy, national policy document. राइट हमारा बजट जो है ना हमारा देश का रुख को जाहिर करता है उसमें कैपेक्स का इंक्रीमेंट हुआ राइट और इट इज वेरी क्लियर दैट द कैपेक्स हैज गॉन अप अच्छी बात है पर डिफेंस आउटले वहीं का वहीं है राइट आपने कैपेक्स बढ़ा दिया और डिफेंस आउटले एक्चुअली अगर आप बाद में देखोगे तो एक्चुअली इट विल गो डाउन वो उल्टा दिशा में है और इसका बीच में कोई मेल और मिश्रण नहीं है तो फिर कौन सा सीएमएफ है सिविल मिलिट्री फ्यूजन तो है ही नहीं हमारा बजट में डिसरप्टिव टेक्नोलॉजीज और न्यू टेक्नोलॉजीज के बारे में बहुत बात हुआ क्या वो रिपर्पस होंगे फौज के लिए उसके बारे में कोई जिक्र नहीं है राइट तो ये चीजें हैं हमें सोचने वाली बात है जब तक जो हमारा प्रधानमंत्री ने बोला वो बाकी सब सोचेंगे नहीं समझेंगे नहीं और उसके ऊपर इख्तियार नहीं करेंगे तो विल बी वेयर वी आर वही का वहीं रहेंगे विल बी देयर अनलेस what the top leadership, top man in this country thinks is not translated to others. Look at it from another point of view. We recently held the Aero India show, only for military aircraft. Next year, in January, we are going to hold the, what's that? Wings India 2024 in Hyderabad. That will be for civil aircraft. Can you imagine? One within the same year, you're having two air shows, one for military and one for civil. This doesn't happen anywhere in the world, whether it's in Farnborough, London, or the Dubai Air Show, or the Paris Air Show, or wherever you go, whichever Singapore Air Show. The air show for aerospace sector, civil and military, is the same. Why are we doing it separately in India? Forget that. It gives me a very clear idea there's hardly any civil military fusion. We have to think differently. Right? The happy thing is that there is इसके बारे में आजकल जिक्र हो रहा है, right? And there are a lot of conferences being held, everything. And I'm sure some of these, conferences and the proceedings of this conference and all will go up. In Delhi, a lot of think tanks are talking about it, like the think tank I spoke of yesterday. And I'm trying to convey it to all of you through the YouTube. Please pass it on to your friends because it's something which our country needs. Pass it on to anyone in the government, right? We need this in India. Again, it's not that we don't have it, but we need more. Right. This is all I've had to say. I'm